We have the right to change direction. We have the right to change focus. We have the right not to be led by people who don't care about us, and be led by people who we can relate with, who we can talk to, who are not, tone deaf.
What will make it so different, even when you have young ones on board?
Is character, its competence, its capacity, its history, and its pedigree as well. As a young person, I have the kind of pedigree that you can take to the bank, that if I tell you I'll do something, I'll do it. You can see it for those people who are new to my activism. You can see it in Sahara Reporters. I have taken on some of the most powerful Nigerians. We've exposed some of the biggest stories. We've done blockbuster stories on corruption in this country that has changed the media environment. We've disrupted the media space. It is time to go and disrupt the political space. Anything I tell you I'll do it. There's no question about it. And if we get it right at the top, it's then easier to get it right at the bottom, because the rot that is afflicting Nigeria is at the top.
Investigative journalism, that's what we know about Sahara Reporters. And that has, you've been on different waters, turbulent waters, as Nigerians would say it. At this time that you're also presenting yourself to Nigerians, are you ready, for, the waters that can be so stunning and turbulent for you coming this time?
Listen, I've not done anything different in my life. I've lived my life in the open, starting from when I was in the university. And I've always been in turbulent waters. For some reason, I don't know why, maybe it's just destiny, that I'm destined to just be a fighter and struggle for everything. So there's nothing that I do that is not transparent, that you can't, for example, I don't have any houses anyway. If you ask me to declare my assets today, I only have one house in my village where I grew up, because my father has 3 wives and had 16 of us. I had 20 of us at the point where 16 still alive, and we needed more housing, so more room space. So I built a house, and I spent 5 years to almost complete it. That's the only thing I have. I don't have a brand new car anywhere, both in the U.S. or Nigeria. I have maybe a few Tokumbo cars that I brought in. My bank account has been frozen for the last 1 year by the law court judgment that the Senate President fraudulently obtained from his real estate in Kwara. So I don't have any assets that is not open to public knowledge. Even this race that I entered, I had to do crowdfunding, public funding. I'm publicly seeking funding on GoFundMe, where people are donating to the campaign based upon their convictions. And I made it clear that the fact that you're donating to me doesn't mean that you influence what I do. It's just that you believe that I have the characteristics needed to take this country to a new, different altitude.
Getting Nigerians behind you and for the cause that you're presenting to them, it will be about Nigerians going to the polls. And we do know what is happening today, that Nigerians are complaining. Even the PVCs, we don't have them going around. There's suspicion about even INEC and its performance. So, presenting all of these, where are we going to get the real facts about this?
That's why we are starting very early, to ensure that even INEC's feet is put to fire, and ensuring that people get their permanent voters' cards to vote in the election. When politicians want to rig election in this country, they recruit the youth to do it. So now I'm telling all the youth, just withdraw your services from them and use it for what is right.
Are you going to be worried about what the third force is presenting?
I'm not. Look, they can bring in the first force, second force, third force. It's all a farce. It's not gonna, it's not gonna fly. They know that already. There's no question about it. They already know it, and they're getting the vibes that something is happening that's never happened before. Like I said, the only people that will lose in this upcoming election are people who are sitting on the fence. This election is going to be disrupted by a new set of right-thinking people. And when I say young, it doesn't mean that the people that are young are the only one interested, but it will be driven by them, because in these cases, their future is at stake. I wanted to address the comrade who earlier called. He said that what we've said is not different. That's not correct. We have been very, very clear that our direction and paths will be different, and we have spelled out what needs to be attacked immediately in terms of putting Nigeria on the right path of progress and prosperity. And part of it is to do massive investment in this country's youth and its people and infrastructure on power. For example, I've never heard it before from anybody that they plan to build solar power in the north. I've never heard it from anybody, and that is going to bring massive employment to the northern youth. Yes, I agree with him that there's a problem of education in the north, but there's also a problem of drug abuse in the north. There's a problem of mortality rates in the north being the highest. There's something wrong in the north about the way it is being governed, and there's also something wrong in other parts of the country. And with regards to education, I have a commitment. Not only am I like an activist and a reporter, I'm also a teacher. I've taught in a university in the U.S. for almost 10 years as an adjunct professor. What they call adjunct is, part-time lecturer. That's what you call it here. So that when you hear professor, you now say that I have a PhD. No, I only have a master's degree. But what I saw there, apart from the fact that my father is also a teacher, what I saw there is that what happened in the north was that there was this deliberate policy to not give people education in the north because people love to control human mind, and the easiest people to control are people who are illiterate or uneducated. But that doesn't mean that an average northerner is not educated. There's a difference between literacy and education. For example, the highest number of people in possession of PVCs are based in the north because they understand the power of voting. Whereas in the south, people are still like feeling cool that voting is not cool. You look at the way they consume radio in the north. Look at the way, at the time, we saw that the number of people using our websites, we had the highest number from Jigawa, and we're wondering what happened because the northern person has embraced the smartphone way more than you can even imagine. So people are educated around here, but there's also a deliberate policy by the people who are from the north themselves, leaders who have come from the north, to not educate northern kids. And we are going to do that massively by building schools and ensuring that because also it's important to understand that in this new generation, classrooms are no longer going to be the best way to educate people. Already there's now a difference between library full of books and books that are full of libraries. Like your cell phone device can carry enough books that can last you for the rest of your life. You can't finish reading what you can download on a cell phone. If you have an iPad, for example, you can download thousands and thousands of books. So people should understand that a lot of that is also, technology is moving the needle around. So I beg to disagree with our comrade that, I'm not talking differently. And I understand the cynicism that, politicians have made people not to believe anybody or anything. But as a young person, I travel in the minds of young people. I know what they want. I've engaged with them. Part of the reason you see that I'm engaging in town hall meetings is also to hear people out, because sometimes politicians are cocky and arrogant. They just think they know it all. Whereas it is not what people need in southern Kaduna that they need in northern Kaduna, and or they need in Abakaliki, or they need in Port Harcourt or Ekpe in Lagos. You have to understand that, and these things are dynamic. Well, I came from nowhere. I didn't even have a journalism training, and I sat down with a laptop and promised that I would create a website, a news website that would take news reporting to a different direction or a different level. I have equipped mentally. I would even say that, educationally, to do what is right. I actually do have a degree, a master's degree in public administration. And I did law and public policy as my major. So I understand the dynamics of how governance works. I've met with a lot of people who are doing great things in the world. Social media is a major, major factor. The 2019 election is going to be determined largely on social media. We have to live with that reality. Anybody that is telling you otherwise is lying to you. Even they themselves, the government and the other opponents that we have, they are trying very hard to catch up with us on social media because they have realized that the social media will determine their fate.
Your vision for Nigeria, last line.
Oh, man, the vision is great. And the best way to describe it is that I just have seen Nigeria, I've seen the promised land. And I know that a different Nigeria is possible, where you can send your children to school everywhere. In fact, I said yesterday that it would be a crime not to send your children to school under our government, where you can go to hospitals that will dispense health, where you can go to schools that will give you education, where you can drive on our roads and live in a united, just and fair society, where the rule of law will reign supreme, where workers are adequately compensated, pensioners are paid on time, where you can turn on the tap at home inside your kitchen and water will come out of it and it will not be brown or black, where you can actually go on vacation for the first time because you have enough left after you work year round. So we're talking about the Nigeria where you will be able to turn on the lights, electricity in your house, and the fan will work, and we have industries that are blossoming because there will be electricity. Let me tell you, Tunisia today is selling solar-powered electricity to Malta, France. Tunisia is not as big as Nigeria. Morocco just imported the fastest, they're going to start their fastest train system ever. But here, it's even difficult to find a train that can go from Abuja to Kaduna. Most of the time, they don't even take off on time. You know, it's just, you know, this very lazy, crawling train. Whereas the rest of the world are already doing, you know, magnetic train lines. You know, we still have the standard gauge here, where a lot of people have moved on to the dual gauge. This is understanding. I'm giving you what can work, what is possible, and I've done my research. We have a whole team working on research, and they've come out with all the figures on how best we can take this country to the next level. What has been lacking, as you know, is not campaign promises. There are acres and acres of manifestos. If you look out there, it's the character and the will to do what is right has been absent in our leadership for 58 years. That is why this country has lived longer than most of its citizens. Imagine if you were born in 1960 and your life expectancy is 47 or 50. You would have died. That's Nigeria for you. But we don't have to be in that condition. Our situation can change, but it's up to all of us to change it dramatically and change it now. You cannot continue to have a Nigeria that's living on borrowed voices and borrowed ropes. You have to create the Nigeria you want. And I'm imploring everybody to stand up and be counted. Put your feet on the ground. Stop, you know, whining and complaining. Take the bull by the horn. Vote for Omoyele Sowore come 2019, and by May 30th, Nigeria will be a different. May 30th, 2019. That's the second day after I'm sworn in. Nigeria will be a different place. It will be good money, really good money. Nigeria. It won't be the generic good money we do now. We're going to change Nigeria from the day we are sworn in by declaring emergency in the education sector, in the health sector, in the power sector. I mean, real emergency, that is to say we are going to work to make sure that all these areas are fixed. They are building skyscrapers overnight. But we can't build an Abuja runway, just a 1 kilometer runway for 5 months. They built those things in Scotland, and you can see the video on net overnight. But we are not doing it because of the kind of analog people that are running our country. That has to be ended now, immediately. Let's join hands. If this doesn't happen, you have only yourself to blame, because now you have a chance to make a difference and to travel in a different, prosperous direction for Nigeria.